So I'll call the meeting into session at 7:15. So let's start with any adjustments to the agenda, of which I'm not aware of any. I think that we're good here. We added that we need to go into executive session for negotiations and budget assumptions. Anyway. So, no adjustments to the agenda. Item 3, audience and communications. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 4, presentations. We have none this time, so we can get right into reports to the board, which we have a few to review quickly. So, John, do you mind? I'll pass it over to you. Is there anything you want to start with there? Otherwise, I know there's some other things to talk about too.
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory on our report. I think things have gotten off to a really good start. We're very pleased. We've had, well, I will share with you, Allenbrook has won another award for PBIS. We have a team going down August 7th. To receive the award. It'll be our second blue ribbon.
October 7th.
October 7th, sorry, October 7th. Nice. So we're very excited about that. So it's maintaining a good pace, and kids are doing a great job, and teachers are doing a great job. So we're really happy with that. And just about the open, houses, we had a 3-4 open house last week. Tomorrow night is Allenbrook's open house, and Thursday night is the 5-8 open house. And I think we're all set. We're doing the Learning Expo at the same time. Last year, if you remember, they did it after, later, and some of the comments were it was too late, and so it went really well, I guess, with the 3-4. So I'm hoping for a good turnout myself tomorrow night. So I think other than that, we're pretty well set and off to a good start.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I attended the 3-4 because we
got done in
so
time.
Quick. I was able to go actually get there on time and do it. So are we covered with board representation for the next
I'm
time?
going tomorrow. I'm going on Thursday.
Awesome. Great. Great. Okay, so let's talk about CSSU debrief. And there was some stuff there to discuss. Let me just see how it kind of lines up with what we have for action matters. Policy committee member, budget calendar. There's a couple of things. Okay. Let me just take a look through here. So at discussion matters at the CSSU today, came up a topic around board communications, and this kind of goes back into some of the outputs we had at the retreat. And so the general consensus was that there wasn't there's interest across the boards and across the CSSU that's been discussed at the board chair level about trying to understand what our communications needs are. If there's any way we should look at understanding whether we can really help each other out across the separate boards. There's common topics that come up, throughout the year that we could be leveraging all across the CSSU. But there wasn't a desire to go make a grand plan yet of any sort, or charge a committee to do this, or fund a budget. But there is a desire to see if we can get a volunteer from every board to attend one meeting, just one meeting, and we're not even calling it a charged committee, to get together and discuss with the other boards, well, what is it that you're doing? What is it that you're asking of central office, to compile for information that we can use to communicate, and can we leverage that together instead of coming at them from 5 or 6 different directions. And an output of that might be a recommendation that this becomes something more than that, but that isn't necessarily the original intent, although that discussion could foster that.
Really excellent explanation.
Okay. I think it's pretty important, and I'm hoping that someone has some interest here who can go represent us at that one meeting.
I just have one question.
Sure.
So when you say communications, we're talking about communications to our constituents?
Yeah. This is outbound. Yeah, outbound communications. So for us, it's been traditionally our board's corner and some stuff in the school bell, and maybe some Facebook posts that we get around to every now and then.
And I would not forget the budget flyers that you do.
That's true.
Because that's a huge source of communication that is in a backdoor way coordinated at the SU.
That's true, yeah.
And might be a model for other things.
And so,
A date is to be determined. I don't have a date for this.
For the one
But I'm
meeting.
gonna start selling them on
for the
you.
one meeting,
For the one meeting.
so for the one meeting.
For the one meeting.
I am happy to do this for the one
One
meeting, and I'm
meeting.
not saying I wouldn't do it for others, but for now, I'm happy to do it for one.
Great, that's great to hear. And I do think the intent is to have the one meeting and have some sharing basically and come out of that with,
Right.
great. Great. Well, you might not have to worry about it because it's running, so.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be writing it down in my
Yeah.
Yeah.
notes right now.
And it's being recorded, so
That's
there's no
right,
going around.
that's right. Great, so if there's not any more discussion about that, we're cooking. We're gonna get into the good stuff here. Okay, so we have a couple of things that we need to do in a certain order here around action matters. We can, I'm just gonna kind of go through this and then we're gonna go through the motions literally. We can discuss and approve our board work plan, which is in your package, and that was output, again, from the retreat that kind of sets our agenda for the rest of the year. We're going to make a motion to approve the budget assumptions and the budget calendar, but we're actually gonna postpone that until after we go into executive session to discuss, because it has implications with negotiations and ratifying the contract, because then we can take assumptions. So you'll also see that when you get down to 7.5, ratifying the collective bargaining agreement, we will make the motion, because we're gonna have to have an action, but we'll take the discussion into executive session and then come out of session and vote on the motion.
Right.
Okay?
Mhm.
And then everything else is sort of as we normally do it. So let's do 7.1 and approve our 2014-2015 work board plan. Can I have a motion so we can discuss?
Second?
Great. Okay, so if you saw in your packet, and actually we have the benefit of having Elaine here right now, she can maybe help me go through it. That would be really cool. Let me draft you on this one. Let me grab it, get over my thing here. So this should look familiar. It's sort of how we've done it each and every year.
And just as a reminder, it is totally from your retreat. You know, some things might be plugged in because they're an every year agenda item, but other than that, it's looking through your retreat notes and the conversations and discussions you had there,
Yep.
and then figuring out where to plug it in.
Okay, so, so that's where we see things like the fact that we don't have something this month. Next month, we're scheduled for a certain common topic, both at the CSSU level, that's covered on the work plan, and then we follow on with our local versions of those conversations. And we're on a 3-year cycle, and this year, our cycle is student support, right?
Right.
Right, so that's what we'll be concentrating on from that. And then there's a few other things that we asked to talk about, and they're plugged in appropriately when we can get to them throughout the year. Any questions?
Nope.
Make sense? Great, so all in favor of adopting the budget plan as spelled out in the materials? Please say aye.
Aye.
And no opposed, then we're passed. Okay, so the way we did this in CSSU, and it made sense to me, but we're a small group, so we're just gonna run through this, is I'll take a motion to approve the budget assumptions in the budget calendar, and then I'll take another motion from someone to postpone the decision until after.
Okay.
And so then we can roll it that way. So can I have a motion to approve the budget assumptions in the budget calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Great. Then can I have another motion to postpone this decision until after we come out
Make a
of it?
motion that we postpone this decision until after executive session.
Great. A second?
Second.
Wonderful. Let's move on to 7.3, affirming and appointing members to board committees. Fun time. So, There are a number of board committees that have been charged or recharged at the CSSU level that we have a responsibility to participate in. And let me get over my list here. This is one of them. That's what I was looking for. Hold on a second. Just go back here. Where did it go? Here it is. For once, I actually printed stuff out, and this is like the worst thing I could ever do.
I know.
I'm serious. Because my iPad got the Spider-Man app installed, so my kids call it the cracks.
Ah, the Spider-Man app,
Spider-Man
yes.
app. Yeah, I dropped it. Yeah.
Oh,
Here I
yeah.
am. So give me just a moment to just pull up the description of these 6. Actually, I think I have it.
Are you talking about the CSSU?
Yeah, the CSSU
Oh,
ones.
yeah.
I know I have them here, and I'm just.
So I could just tell you,
Yeah, well, that would work too.
Legislative Breakfast Committee.
Mhm.
So that's to organize the annual legislative breakfast, and defining the agenda and the format. And prior board members from this board, Josh Diamond.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it has to be Josh, but it can be, you know. There's, Sandy listed the people who are were serving last year.
And so being that he's not here, I just think it does make sense, just
Yeah.
because of what he does.
I think he
professionally,
likes
right?
it too. I think he enjoys it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I'm happy to propose to Josh that he
Yeah.
volunteer
He
for
doesn't
this,
wanna
so
do it, I'll
I'd
do
be
it.
fine holding off on that particular appointment until we get his. If we all agree that if.
Tentatively,
Yeah,
he's,
tentatively,
Yeah,
that if
there you
he's willing to do it, we'll accept him, then that's awesome.
the next
What's the next one?
Superintendent Evaluation Committee. So that's every year, that's a yearly committee, to facilitate the evaluation process and provide draft reports to the CSSU board at their March meeting.
Yep.
Time commitment is 4 to 6 hours, and, I don't know what this means. Oh, in like December, 4 to 6 hours in November, December, and 10 hours in January through March. And Deb, you've served on this committee, you're the person, so does that sound right in terms of the time commitment?
It does.
That would include the 2 hours that you meet with me, that everybody does, whether you're on this committee or not.
Mhm.
Yep, I think that's right.
So you've done it,
Yeah, I've done it a couple of
Mhm.
years.
and do you wanna do it again?
Well, is anybody interested? Do you?
No.
One thing I'm just gonna bring this up, if your intention is not to run next year, it would be great if
Yeah.
we have someone who,
As a backup?
well, who can learn, because this is gonna be an ongoing committee, so
This is every year.
this is
Yeah,
every
so-
year. I mean, I'm great, I'm thrilled if you'll do it, but I just want you guys to think that come next year, we're gonna have, someone else is gonna
I'll
take
take
that.
that, I'll do it this year.
Great, okay.
Nice.
I didn't mean to take it up on you, that wasn't my intention at all.
No, I was throwing it out there too. Because I think we talked about how it should kind of rotate a little.
Yeah, we had this
Shouldn't be the
discussion
same
tonight,
people
yeah. Okay,
consistently.
The
Okay,
next one
great.
is Administrative Comp Committee, and that is an outgrowth of the work that you had the firm do a couple years ago
Mhm.
to track, salaries, executive salaries across the organization and how they, whether they were competitive or not, and you got salary ranges and
Mhm.
developed a salary grid, if you will. It's not really a grid, it's more of like a ratio
yeah,
of so the plan was that every 2 or 3 years, you would get back together and say, is the fixed point, the middle point still the right point? And to determine how much money you want to put into the administrative salaries for the next year. So that is, it says, to be determined based on the amount of research deemed necessary by the committee. Kevin, you were the one
I
that
served
served.
on this,
Yeah.
so I can tell you that the time commitment's probably correct, which is 3 to 4 hours. It'll meet in October and November, because we really wanna come out of that with a recommendation that supports our budgeting. because that's a pool of money that, for the administrative team, that we would want to budget for. I don't mind doing it again, but if someone has interest, in the interest of rotating positions, I'll certainly give it over.
Well, I wanna reserve until I hear what else is coming.
Okay, so there's a couple others then.
Could I say something, Kevin,
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah,
I think in the future, it's a great idea to rotate, but this is gonna be the first time this committee has met since you got the
yeah, good point.
recommendations, and I'm just curious even how you're gonna make a decision about whether it's time to move the end posts or
I
not.
am too, it's gonna be
And so
interesting
it's gonna be
discussion,
really,
actually.
I'm curious, if I were serving on that committee, I'd wonder, like, how do you decide that? So to have people who already served and spent the time with Frank Sandowski and, were knee-deep in it, it makes sense to me that you might consider
Okay. Let's go through the other
your
ones.
decision. Policy.
Policy.
So policy, the dates have been established, and I said at the SU board meeting, and I'm gonna repeat it here, we are holding the meetings whether people show up or not, and we're gonna do the work,
Makes sense.
because that last year was a nightmare in terms of trying to get a quorum, so we're abandoning the idea of a quorum. The idea is this is important work that we need to do. Policy is one of the key work of boards. Very important work, we're gonna be doing the work. So, should be looking at the dates. Do you have a list of the dates there? I think I do.
I do have them.
Yes, I
I did
do.
find my stuff finally. Bought me enough time.
So, there are meetings in September, October, and skip November and December during the budget cycle, and then through the end of the year. Typically a 2-hour meeting, max, and it will be held at CVU. That's more convenient for the whole world than Shelburne.
Yeah, generally.
Except for Shelburne.
Generally.
I can tell you that based on just looking at the fact that the meetings are at 8 on Wednesdays every day,
Yes, they are,
I
consistent
can't
date.
make it.
Okay.
I just will never be able to make it.
Mhm.
I work at that time.
Josh, no? Can he not?
No, because he's always in Montpelier, like
Yeah,
around
yeah.
6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's expressed in the past. Because
Mhm.
that would have been
Because he'd be,
perfect.
this would be a great,
Perfect for
Yeah.
him, yeah. So,
I can't reasonably make this time fit with everything else that I'm doing here.
Guess I'll do it. I think I was on that committee anyway last
yeah,
year.
you were, right.
thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much. You want this?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I think Wednesday nights are good anyway,
Thank you.
except for
Yeah, that's
that
the
one.
big thank you. Okay, and so this gets us into 2 new committees that have been charged now, because
Mm-hmm.
we did approve them as CSSU. So here, I'll start with backing up here. So the first one is strategic planning. So the idea here is to take a look at, there's been a lot of work done around strategic planning at the CSSU level, but it hasn't been looked at in a little while. There's some great background information about how we've gotten to where we are now. Charging this committee, I think, is not an intention to say we're doing things wrong, we need to fix them. It's more strategic, it's more what are some of the things that we should be thinking about doing in the future? And even more importantly, with everything that's going on in the state legislature around consolidation, what should we be thinking about to get ahead of it and perhaps have more of a presence in the conversation at the state level? And so that's part of the conversation that needs to happen there. But there's a couple other things too that have come up in the past that have been tabled, maybe, just for lack of a better way to put it, like food service consolidation, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know, well, that's why, because everybody kind of, well, that could work and that could not work, but maybe it's something that this committee could look at as strategically something they want to approach over time and not dive into as a specific topic. So the intent is to develop a 5-year plan for the SU structure, which will allow it to more efficiently and effectively fulfill its mission. The scope includes possible programs and services consolidation, alignment of policy and procedures, and governance changes should legislative initiative change the discussion in any material way. Meetings are expected to be about an hour and a half quarterly. So the time commitment is 2 hours per month, including legislative updates and other reading materials. So some of that would be on your own work, shall we say, basically to keep up on things. And that is a new
sounds
committee,
like a
so
good
there's,
committee.
no one has
I like
served
that
on it.
one.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I think it's actually gonna be kind of interesting, yeah.
So you're taking that one too?
And by the way, I don't think it's inappropriate if there's more than one of us that wants, seriously, if more than one of us wants to serve, I think that all would be welcome. So I'm just
Put me
throwing
on
that-
it too, I think.
Okay. Great. Great. And so that leaves us with the last committee that was charged tonight. It's called the Leadership 135 Committee. Which is, I laugh because it's an inside joke with Gene and I, because we argued about whether it should be named this. But the intention is really to develop a plan around career development and succession planning for our administrative team and our principals. Because we really don't have that per se, we're handling it ad hoc. And so the intention is, the idea is, we called it 135 because the idea is to develop a plan which addresses succession planning for leadership positions within the SU for the near term, 1 month or unanticipated, medium, 2 to 3 years out, and strategic 5 years out as time horizons. The scope includes central office, senior staff, and principals. So I think the discussion was pretty straightforward. It's the near term thing, the committee would probably reasonably just charge the superintendent to manage those issues as they come up. But you then quickly get into the 2 to 3 year things and the 5 year things. The 5 year, if you skip to 2 to 3 and you look at the 5 year, the 5 year is more of a talk about do we want to work both within the SU and perhaps even with other SUs close by or at the VSBA level to talk about career development planning so that there's a pool of candidates close by that we're comfortable and familiar with who have been working with mentors and however that could work out, such that if we had to go for a principal or a superintendent search or something at the senior level, or someone gets pulled from us and takes a job, we've got some resources available nearby. The 2 to 3 year one gets interesting because it's looking at career development for those people, but it's also, there's been talk about how if someone on our team declares, I'm going to be here for another couple of years and then I'm going to retire. And I'm just giving you a heads up. What are you going to do about it? Well, we don't have a plan to do about it. So what would we do? Would we think about, picking from within and mentoring up over that time period, or would we go on a national search? There's a lot of options, but it needs to be discussed and there needs to be some planning around it. A good explanation?
Yeah, it's a very good explanation.
So that's the intention of that. The meetings wouldn't begin until February. The thought here was there's a lot of committee work going on here, so this isn't an immediate concern, but we need to start working on it. And the thought is that it would be an hour a month as determined by the committee.
You can put me on that.
Okay. And I may try on that one, but I don't know. I'm gonna put you on as primary.
Sounds good.
That one I think is kind of interesting too. Okay, so that's all of those. So with those appointments made and Josh is pending, can I have a vote to approve the appointments of these members to these board committees? I think we've got a motion on the table, so I just need an aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Done and done. So, let me get back over to the Williston one here and looking at that one.
I just want to make sure before I head down the hall to some other board, that you included 7.5 ratify collective bargaining agreement.
Yes, I just
want to make sure
I was
that
just
that's.
getting there, actually,
Okay,
yeah.
I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
And I'm going to leave with John these items that need to be signed.
Okay.
Clerk, and one, and Giovanna.
Great.
Make sure they get done and deliver them to Sandy outside of the CVU board meeting, CSSU board meeting room.
Okay.
I might be back, but I've got to go visit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, very helpful. Okay, so we're now on to 7.4, and so we have some actions around building maintenance, and I've been looking forward to this. So, okay, let's just get this out of the way. Let's get the motions on the table, and then we can have a nice, good discussion about this. So let's just start. Should we do this kind of, John, together? These two, 741 and 742. I guess we can award the contract after we have the discussion on 741, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so, can I have a motion to approve the establishment of a WCS drainage construction fund project in the amount of $44,000?
Make a motion to develop a construction fund for drainage for $44,000.
Can you take your second then?
Second?
Great. Okay. Floor is yours, guys.
Yeah, well, it's a great opportunity. I want to introduce Lyle Smith. Lyle is our new Director of Operations and Maintenance.
Might I just say, lucky you?
Yeah.
I mean that.
It's been a pleasure, it really has. He's been on top of things and really getting going and taking time to check things out. And I left a couple of pieces of paper with you. One is sort of our top 5 list of things that we feel need some work and looking at. The next piece below that is a piece that you'll be hearing more about in October, which will be part of the 5-year plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Lyle, and I'll let him explain what we're doing with the drainage piece and how we came about that.
Yeah, so the drainage was one of the things that was brought to my attention when I first started the job, July 1. And the symptoms of the problem were that we were actually physically getting water in some of the low-lying classroom areas of Kiva area. I don't remember exactly what room you call that.
Sea house.
Which essentially is a function of that pitched roof having tremendous amount of water coming off of it in any significant rainstorm. The original design was to have something that they called on the prints a drip drain, which was nothing more than having a small layer of grass with some fabric covering some stone and some 4-inch perforated pipe. That probably worked for a very short time, I'm guessing, but once the soils became compacted, the water really just takes a much longer time to saturate the soils and actually enter those pipes. So I had already contacted Jeff Kirshner from Hamlin Engineering that I'd done projects with over the years at other schools, and described the problem to him, and also he was working on our stormwater compliance, because our permit was out of compliance, and we had made a deal with Williston Public Works that we would work with them to get that compliance. So this was really part of that bigger picture, was this is stormwater that we're not managing well. The result is it's sitting in huge ponds in the front of our building, and some of it is getting under the slab and the crushed stone under there and working its way to the low-lying areas like under the auditorium. And under that kiva. So my goal is always to keep water out of the building, wherever it's trying to get in, and control it. So we looked at what was going on. I took lots of videos in lots of big rainstorms and figured out where everything was ponding, and shared that with Jeff. And then we looked at the prints to see what was supposed to be happening, and decided, well, let's camera some pipes to find out whether they're still in existence, whether they were actually installed, things like that. So we spent a little bit of money and some time getting a camera truck out there and digging up some pipes. We decided that the most reasonable fix would be to access those pipes, but bring drainage structures just to the surface, so that we basically have mini catch basins that are then physically attached to that piping system that's already existing.
No, so then it could drain out.
Exactly. So as long as we know where those drains are, and we've done this before in other schools, and it's probably not the absolute end-all best fix. If we would ultimately love to dig around the school, put footing drains in that were, but it would be hugely costly.
Yeah.
So our first thing is, let's try to make use of what's pre-existing. And if we can keep those drains marked and cleared, then we have a chance of getting that water more quickly to the storm drain system that we're working on anyway. I think it's gonna make a big difference. I'm looking at a quote here, which wasn't on your list, but it should have been a sidewalk. I've identified a lot of sidewalks that need repair, and I just added it up, and it's a big number. It's a scary number, because we have a lot of sidewalks. And I was talking to John, I said, I wouldn't even attempt to fix those sidewalks in many cases, because I haven't controlled the water that's making them break. That's heaving them and causing all these frost and icing issues. So one thing has to happen before I can even attempt to do this. I know what it's gonna cost when we finally get control of the water, but it's further down in the pecking order.
Yep.
So that's a brief explanation of that project and why we figured that we need to take care of that first. The attic project that is on your list, the ventilation project, is probably, I think, a close second, because again, it's allowing water into the building when you get ice jamming situations.
Sorry, Lau, let me ask you, so when we say water under the stage area and Kiva area, like is water coming up?
Yes,
Mhm.
through the slab.
Really?
We were literally pumping water out of Sea House in their Kiva.
Sea house is what house?
The last house down, I believe it's Voyager, which is on the very end.
Wow,
And,
It's taking the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
There's a low point.
wow.
and then down at the very base of the theater, you know, the auditorium too. Yep.
It's a big roof, and there's a lot of water that comes off, and it just sits at the foundation, which is very.
And you
low.
notice it when you walk in the building, the pond, the
Yes.
pumps right there are
Yeah.
huge right there.
Yeah, huh, okay, sorry, thank you, I just didn't understand.
So again, water infiltration, big problem, not something we want to mess with. So the heat loss that we're getting from that same area,
It's a house.
A house, the type of construction, is causing the metal roof to melt the snow. It starts to travel down. It hits the only part of the roof that's really somewhat ventilated, which it's not very well ventilated, which is part of the problem. The roof is cold again, and it refreezes. That becomes a jam. The water then works its way, literally water starts to accumulate behind the ice, and it works its way underneath the seams, and then literally pours into classrooms from the reports I've gotten. I haven't seen it firsthand,
I
I've heard it
did.
from many people, yeah, so.
I do, yeah.
So I think we hired a mechanical engineer to take a look at that, and I actually had an architect look at it too, and he just spent some time up there, and he said that this is exactly what's happening, you're right, your theory is right on. We looked at the construction type, and part of the problem is, above the ceiling tiles, rather than sheetrock the deck, they just stapled some sort of reflective plastic up there, and then put batt insulation on there. It's value engineering. I'm sure probably somebody that designed it said, I really would love to have sheetrock up there, but when you price that out, it's huge. So instead, they say, well, or we can do this, and that's probably why you ended up with it. It gets compromised every time you poke a hole to put a wire in, or somebody installs some ductwork and the tape fails. All of a sudden you have heat loss, and when that heat gets into the attic, you're just making a snow melting machine.
So there's rafters with a vapor barrier that's plastic
Right.
with,
Batt
insulation
on
on-
top.
Mhm.
Yeah,
and then there's drop ceilings underneath it?
yeah,
That's a problem.
yeah. It's not great. The construction type is, and I see it a
'Cause
lot.
you can't
in a
just
lot of
blow
schools.
insulation in there now, cause it'll
Well, yeah,
pop
well, I
through
think
the-
that's been tried, and then but then the vent from the eave gets compromised because it's just a styrofoam hat channel, and
yeah.
that gets crushed.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden you don't have good airflow from there, so
yeah.
they did
The other way
calculations.
is to
It's
vent it
how much
out, yeah.
soffit area do you have? Do you have a ridge vent? We didn't even have a ridge
Yeah.
vent. We had some vents up
Yeah.
there that spin. But none of the airflow was enough
Yeah.
per what it should be to keep that cold space cold, especially with the heat loss. And my intention is to go up there with a thermal imaging camera and find out where the worst culprits are and try to keep that heat at bay and stop losing it up into the attic. That coupled with venting it properly, I think we've got a chance of keeping this thing from making huge ice jams and then getting water into the building. So that project, I just got an email today, we decided that we wanted to stage that project. So you'll see some quotes probably coming your way saying, okay, the area that we're having the most problem with is the one we're gonna focus on. Depending on what that comes in at, to replace the soffit and put the vents in the top, we'll decide how much we can
Right.
do as we move forward.
Can they blow foam, can they put foam in the rafter? and
I've
just
seen that done.
Tighten it up and then,
Yeah, I've seen that done, they make it into a warm attic rather than a
Right.
cold attic. And they
Right.
spray foam everything, but then you have to also put fire retardant on top of the foam. So you've got the process of spray foaming the whole, all the rafters, and then you have to go up there and fire retardant spray it too. So it's quite costly. Lowell, I think, did that. That school had
Yeah.
similar problems and it took care of it, but it was
And a cost.
pretty
Because,
costly, and you've got a
yeah.
big attic. Everything's big there, it's a big school, That's why the sidewalk number's so
well,
big.
yeah, maybe a
No, no.
combination, because the real troubled spots, you're gonna have a problem even if you vent it, because you're still gonna get
If I
a lot
can't
of
keep that
heat.
heat loss,
Yeah, you're still
gotta
gonna get a
button
jam
it up.
if it's not tight.
Mhm.
Exactly, yeah. But
Pull it off,
sheet rocking underneath, is
Pull it
also
off.
huge.
pull it off, pull the snow off with rakes.
Yeah, with the snow carts, that's fun. Get up there on the slippery roof, yeah.
No, send the younger guy.
It's an 8th grade project.
There you go.
Yeah, well, good luck. Let's get back to us, that's interesting.
So what else do we have on our list here?
I think that's really the main piece right there that we're, so that's what the funding is.
Right. And you're gonna come back to us with the rest of it under the 5-year plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll come back in October with
Okay.
that, so you'll have a better
You'll
picture
have another
of
winter to
costs and what it
diagnose it.
looks like. and-
No more.
The only
Do you know, I'm sorry, maybe it's premature, but do you know off the top of your head where we're at with our construction fund right now? Like,
Yeah, see, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I
I
wanna.
thought it was like 100, give or take.
We were up over 100. I wanna say it's probably just under, like around 80,
We
90,
took
I
some
think.
stuff out last year for
Yeah.
theater stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're in good shape, and I said to Walter, we wanna leave some in there, because you always wanna keep,
Totally.
just in
Yeah.
case something happens. So the figure, is the low bid that we got. The only thing Walter wanted to make sure that I told you was that the engineering cost was not added into that 44,000.
Okay.
And the other sheet I think I
That's
gave
the
you
form
was, did I give
Is
that?
this the statement for engineering services
Yeah.
this year? So is this it?
That's it. Now, there's a couple of things that are in here, though. So, for example, the Act 250 piece is in here as well for the engineer doing that work. The Williston Central Drainage Improvement, and then the stormwater improvement. I don't know if you wanna deal with all of this up front at once. Do you wanna just break it out and then just do the 884 to add to the 44,000? We're gonna have to pay for it eventually.
And I know that there are other bills pending that have to do with the stormwater compliance piece that involves surveying. We know we have that culvert out in the back that had partially failed.
Yeah.
We didn't replace that right away because I didn't know enough about the size of the culvert. Did we want to upsize that? Or if we upsize that, were we going to cause ourselves problems? Because then we were increasing the flow to a stormwater permit that we didn't really know the answer. So one thing, again, for me, I have to start at the beginning and figure out, does it make sense to upsize this, or do we keep it the same size? Is it appropriate? And that was stuff that Bob Mason had arranged to become compliant with that. So that's work that he's set into motion.
Okay, so in total, this $4,329.12 would be in addition to the $44,000
Correct.
being asked. for.
Correct.
So we have two choices. We could break all this out into sub stuff and only approve the stuff that goes with it, or we can just take this as is, add it to the 44,000 and approve them to take it out of the construction fund.
I would
Which I
say
think makes the
latter.
That
most
makes
sense.
sense,
yeah.
So, could I think just so we've got it, can someone move to amend the motion to increase the amount to, hold on, I can do it here, 44, 48? It's gonna be 48, right?
Yep,
48,
48, 3,
29,
29.
12.
I make a motion.
Can I have a second? to
Second.
amend? Thank you. Okay,
So, just to be sure, so those 44,000 are for the attic and for,
Mhm.
oh,
Just
just
the
for
just the
drainage?
drainage,
Mhm.
just
We
the
haven't even put
drainage.
that out to bid yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
that's not there.
We're gonna be back talking about that and,
Yep.
and having a conversation with
how
budget
long
time
of
about
a-
how we're going
Yeah,
to
whatever, we can solve.
go out
Well,
and
and
separate vote for this.
also the other reason we're doing this is we can do this now
Yeah.
because
We
the
need to
weather
do- we
is,
need to do it
is,
now.
is,
Right.
you know, is
Yeah,
allowing
you
us
got-
to
you
get
got
that
the
done.
drainage now before.
Right, before the
Yeah,
frost,
I
before snow,
understand.
and so
Yeah,
we
Maybe
really,
that's an important point, is they're here to, you know, the timing is good.
that's right,
I get that.
that's
We
right.
think that once we look at the attic project, we wanna quickly move on that, because again, we can do it before things freeze up if the numbers come back favorably.
So we'll get a better idea of what's left in the account and then we
It's an
can
inside job.
kind of go from there.
You know, the sun stuff, we can, yeah.
Inside job, I like that.
Okay,
Okay.
that was great,
December.
thank you. So any other questions or discussion?
No,
Okay, so, can I have a vote to approve the establishment of a drainage construction fund project in the amount of $48,329? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Great, that is
Great,
approved.
thank you.
So, so now you have let's do this. Can I take a motion to award the contract for the WCS drainage construction project?
So moved.
Second?
Great. Okay, do you have is the quote here in our materials?
Yeah, it should be, and it would be
Parker.
Parker
Yeah.
Construction. We were able to get a couple of quotes. Weston decided not to bid on it or quote on it because he's overworked. He said he's got way too much going on.
Well then, I
And,
don't feel for him.
and he's local, and we've used him before, and, you know, Don does great work. But we got two bids, and Parker has done some work for us once before and has done a nice job, so we're pretty pleased with him. And there was a pretty big difference between the two quotes.
Okay, all right. Any questions?
Nope,
All right, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Great, that passes too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get that taken care of.
Okay, am I missing on my action matters?
I think you're all set if you wanna,
Yeah.
so,
Thank you very much.
so you can get up
Thank
early
you.
and
Welcome, welcome.
Nice
the
to meet you,
town.
yes.
get a good night's sleep.
Yeah. What do you do tomorrow?
Good night.
Do we have, this is on the agenda.
I didn't think so. I'm surprised.
Leave it.
What's that?
A request for an attorney?
Nope, I'll share that with you in a little bit.
Okay,
It's nothing for tonight, but I wanted you to have it ahead of time so that you can,
okay, so you'll bring this to us for formal approval?
Walter will bring it for formal approval in October, but I just wanted to give you the heads up
Got it.
on that person, so.
Okay.
I just wanna say he has been outstanding, just outstanding.
Yeah.
His background, last year he's worked for VisBid, which is Vermont School Board Insurance Trust, and he's been a consultant, and the connections that he has throughout the state is just unbelievable.
That's
Comes
great.
highly recommended. His hands, he's in there doing the work every day with these guys. He's
Great,
done some great stuff, so.
Excellent.
Like Elaine said, we're really fortunate to have him because he's outstanding, just outstanding. I'm super impressed.
Good.
And he knows his stuff. I mean, he knows his stuff, so.
All right, so we need to do the same thing we did for budget assumption 7.2 with 7.5. Let's get a motion, can I have a motion to ratify the 2014-2017 collective bargaining agreement?
so moved.
Great,
Second,
wonderful. And then can I have another motion to postpone this, taking action on this until we exit executive session?
Okay, I make a motion that we postpone until after the executive session.
Second it.
Excellent, thank you. So I got- Okay, so we'll come back to these once we finish up the rest of the stuff. So with the consent agenda, everything's in your packet. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as stated?
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Can I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? I don't think there
No.
needs to be unless somebody, needs something amended. Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So let's confirm our next meeting dates. So we're back together as a board again on the 21st of October. Just to remind you, the common topic will be data indicators across the CSSU, and it's also, it kind of sets the stage for our local discussion, which will be, indicators and data at our WCS level. That one might be worth coming a little early to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
They all are, I don't wanna,
Right.
but this one I think is gonna be down in the weeds a bit. I have a board chairs meeting, October 7th at 8 a.m. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that on October 1st is the regional VSBA meeting, and it's gonna be held at Milton High School, because it's for all of Chittenden County. You're welcome to attend. There's gonna be a fairly good turnout at the CSSU level. The intention at the CSSU level is to have a member from the CSSU on the VSBA board this year. So we're gonna go in support of that. And with everything that's going on with, the legislative impacts potentially, and the discussion, that's been going on around that, tax implications and some of the stuff that's come up, just over the last few months even, I think it's gonna be a pretty important time to have a presence. So, if you're interested, give me an email, and I'll send you off, well, I'll send everybody, I'll just forward everybody the information. I just got some today. I don't know if it was sent to
October
everybody or
1st?
not, but it's October 1st, and I think it's early, like, I wanna say
5:30.
5:30 up in Milton, which is a bit of a haul, but it's gonna be a good one to attend, I think. And I think dinner's served, so
All right.
there's your incentive. Great, so if I can have a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations and budget assumptions?
So moved?
Great.
Second.
So, so this is what I know I can do. I can take it basically off the table, so to speak, the postponement, and just ask for a vote. So, can I have a vote to approve this, no, that's not the wrong one, here I am. To approve, to ratify the collective bargaining agreement for 2014 to 2017. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Given that, can I have, I'll take it back off the table, and I'll ask to have a vote to approve the budget assumptions and the budget calendar. So by the way, just so you know, the calendar, we didn't discuss that, it's here in your packet. It lays out all the meetings and what's gonna happen in each meeting. So all in favor of approving the budget assumptions and the budget calendar? All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay.
Great, then we are done. We can adjourn.